Hello and welcome to everybody. This is our fourth session of Creative Industries. This time it's about artistic collaboration. My name's Kate O'Hara. I'm the Director of Umbrella Studio Contemporary Arts in North Queensland. So we've got some great artists, panellists today. They're going to share with you about their experience of collaboration. Trying to get my slides to go. So this particular program is called Creative Industries, and we've been delivering it throughout the year online. As a response to COVID, we created this program, and it's focused on arts development, artist toolkit expansion, and critical art world discussions. And the themes have actually come from our audience. So this theme was requested by the last audience in the last session. And the actual program is funded by the Regional Art Development Fund, which is a partnership between Queensland Government and the Townsville City Council, so thanks to them. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians, the people of the lands and sea where we're connecting from. So we pay our respects to their elders, past, present and future. I'm connecting in from Bindal and Walkarookabar country. You might want to, I can just see Madonna in the background there. Sorry, Dan. Sorry, you might want to, in the chat section, just let us know where you're connecting in from, what country are you on. So today we have Lynnette Griffiths, who's an artist and the artistic director of Erub Arts. We've got Racy Oui-Pitt, an artist from Erub Arts. We've got Marion Gaemers, an independent artist based in Townsville. We've got Daniel, who you'll know from Umbrella, whose artistic pseudonym is Danish Quapoor, and he's the curator of SICs Degrees, and he's also our gallery and media coordinator at Umbrella. We've got Karri McPherson from New South Wales, who's an artist that's been participating in the 6th Degree project, and we've also got Joeli Eastell, who's in Victoria, who also participated in the 6 Degrees project. So at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session after you've heard from all these amazing artists. During the webinar, you can actually start submitting your questions. So that's in the Q&A box there. And yeah, I hope we have a really interesting session and we get to learn a lot from each other. I guess collaboration is always intrinsic to arts practice and what we do in the arts, and this year particularly this has been so, like, we've been working together to make it through this crazy year. So I guess I'll hand over to Marion.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Marion, an artist and based in Townsville. Most of my practice has always been collaboration, and this image is a photograph of an installation that we put together with Fibres and Fabrics, which is a group in Townsville, a bunch of women who just love to make things. We wanted to Pinnacle's Gallery to have an exhibition, and she said yes, but she wanted no square quilts on the wall or objects on plinths. So we had to think it. And so two of us got together to design as much as we could, and then we came together with the other ideas. People came with ideas and more things came from that. Next slide. So then we went on, after this, everybody enjoyed it. So we moved on to our Belucas. And because the last one was full of colour and about the bush, we thought, well, it's going to limit our palette to white and look at people and the aspect of people. So instead of seeing an exhibition photo, I chose this photo, which is our workroom. So it's amazing what 40 women with sewing machines, fabric can produce. And again, this worked the same way. We had two people more or less in charge, but other people could come and say, I'd like to do a tea set. Yep, that'd be great. And so one of the main requirements was you couldn't be producing the whole thing by yourself. You had to get other people in to help produce the work. Next slide. And so the last project I want to talk about was instigated by Perth Tucker Regional Gallery. They wanted an exhibition on the reef. And at the time, the reef was all about crocheting reefs. So that's why I got an invitation, and the rest who were there were science. But I said, look, you might as well get Fibres and Fabrics involved in this, because 40 women will produce a lot more than what I will. And so we did workshops, 12 months worth of workshops once a month. And you can see in this, the exhibition installed at Perth Tucker Gallery. Then, because we had it already made, we applied to have it at Sculpture by the Sea in Sydney, and that's where it was. That's the photo on the right. And Lynnette joined me on this one and helped me install it down there in Sculpture by the Sea. So that was really interesting. So as these projects are happening, I had previously met Lynnette, next slide, and in 1995, I met her on Thursday Island when she was a TAFE teacher there, and I went up as part of Flying Arts. So as part of that Flying Arts trip, I went to Darnley Island and worked with the acclaim group, which is pre-Erub Arts, on this collaborative project, the story of Bramble Cay. And I just really wanted to sort of look at how groups and individuals are important in organisation, in collaborations. So we couldn't exist without our galleries just being confident in us to have collaborative shows. So now I'm going to hand over to Lynette and Racy. So next slide.
Hi. So I'm Lynnette Griffiths, and I'm here with Racy Oui-Pitt, and we're here on Erub. So the slide that you're seeing is Erub, and this is the Erub Arts team as it stands at the moment, and it's our last collaborative work together. But I've lived and worked in the Torres Strait for 30 years and established the TAFE college there, and then went on to help the acclaim ladies and establish Erub Arts later on, and with Diane Louis, who was the school principal. And it was built, Erub Arts was built out of a collaborative spirit of working and mentoring from the school outwards as well into community. And that was really important part, and still is a really important part of Erub Arts. But I come from a design background, and I've always enjoyed making things. So when I was at uni, I majored in ceramics because I really enjoyed that kind of circle of potters, and ceramic artists work really well together. They fire kilns together and bounce ideas off each other. And I think that's such an important part of collaboration. I can't make things in isolation all the time. But as Marion said, we met through Flying Arts. So in the next slide is another version of the Mazab Care story, which is the story of Bramble Cay. And we took it, is as told in the book of Myths and Legends by Margaret Laurie, edited a long time ago now. And although it was our first sort of foray into working with community. I'd been involved in TAFE for a long time and worked with individuals, but working on community taught me very different things, especially about Indigenous and cultural protocols. And at the time, it was about telling a story, and I learnt really quickly that there's tribal and family hierarchies, and that stories aren't linear in a white Western way, but they're cyclical, and people can dip in and out of those stories from different viewpoints all the time. And it was a really big learning experience, I guess, for us in terms of collaboration and where this piece ended up in the NGV. But it went through a whole pile of things before that happened. And over the years, I guess we've just all worked out how to communicate together, and collaboration in a cross-cultural form is just really best when it's just open and honest communication. And I've got Racy here with me, who's going to speak about herself, but Racy and I have a special relationship. So Racy, do you want to explain that first? And how you got involved?
Yeah, first time I got involved with doing artwork is with Lynette, and and she's my daughter too, adopted daughter. Yes, and really thankful that what Lynette sort of showing us the first time when we started to do something about our life in the island, our culture, and things like that. The more we work together, you know, the more we know something about ourselves, you know, environmental things, what we do, you know, our artwork.
Do we want to go to the next slide? So, Racy, when we talk like when we do stuff together, like being involved in the art centre, what is it? Yeah, what is it that we do? And in this slide, I think this shows us working together, and on the right, you can talk about that.
Yeah, it's like you know, working together with Lynette and Marion. You know, it's really helpful, you know, when we do collaboration, working together, and all the artwork that we do here with all the mother.
Yeah, we can get more done working together.
Yeah, you know, the more we work together, the more things we, you know, done for ourselves and the art center.
And how does that share into community?
Sharing community, the more bigger stuff we do, we want, you know, sharing with our community, with our elders, things like that, and getting more information from them. And then, you know, we all work together to do something big. And
so that the stuff that the elders say feeds back into the artwork. Yeah. So the next slide is a project that we've been working together on, and this was inspired by COVID, at the beginning of the lockdown. So, and we're finishing it off now. Racy, do you want to explain how some of this worked?
Well, the first time, you know, when we you know, send things out, and people from all over Australia and even overseas, they you know, do all small things like that, and when they, you know, post it back to us, so we're so excited now, see something different, and all everybody was so excited. So I just thought, like, you know, when you go and display, the people that do all the work's gonna say, oh, that's mine there, and that's mine. It's really exciting. Just hope we might do something like that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was lots of hard work, wasn't
it?
So in the beginning, Erub put those kits together, so we can see all that colour, all that colour's been stripped out of rope and net, and we put the kits together, and then we sent them down, and then I posted them out, and people made them and posted them back, but now that left-hand side of the screen is where we're at now, isn't it?
It should be finished.
Yeah,
next week. By next week.
So in the next slide, Racy, you've been all over the world, as we all have, with our large installations inside buildings and in collaborations. We went to Monaco in 2016, Singapore in 2017, London last year, although it seems like years ago now. Do you want to say something about your experience? This slide is from Monaco. This was one of the first big overseas trips. How did you feel when you saw this?
Like, so excited, and it's like awesome. It's something different. And, you know, the first time we go in the doorway and look all the things there, and it's just so wonderful to see, you know, all the hard works stuff there, and sharing with some other places, people from Gilligan and Quapoor, and all our works there, and so cute. I don't know. There we all got tears in our eyes, you know, all the works. So exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing ride, hasn't it? It's been an amazing time for us to go all over the world. We expected that GovNet would take us this far. Yeah. So Racy, I know that you're really busy and stitching, and you want to use something you want to say goodbye and get going. And
Oh yes. Well, yeah, I think I better be going now. Marion,
Bye,
to see you again, and all of you. Hope you come.
Thanks, Racy.
Welcome to come anytime.
It's a long way.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's so good to talk to everybody and meet everybody. Yeah, hope to see you again soon. So I better be going now and do my job.
Go and do some.
Thanks, Racy, and good luck with all the sewing you need to get done.
All right, I'll leave you.
well, okay. So yeah, like seeing things like that's so powerful. But back to the collaborative stuff, and in these are two projects that I've done that involve social media, and the sardines that you just saw in the Monaco exhibition started it really because around that jellyfish, I don't know if you know, but that Monaco, the Oceanographic Museum started on research into sardines. That's how the whole museum came about. So sardines were central to that exhibition. And to do that, I realised that we needed, like about 1,500 sardines, and there was no way I could make all of those. So we reached out on a Facebook campaign with an instruction video and kits, and Marion and I put together kits, and I mailed out 100 kits with 5 sardines in each, and I got back 350 sardines. So that was a really big help to make them. Marion made a whole pile, Erub Arts made a whole pile, and together we put that together. And it was the first, for me, it was the first time that I realised the power of social media and what we could do. And even though, sardines came back and they looked like all sorts of things, and there was a lot of other stitching that went on, it was a big wake-up call, and I was really impressed and thought, how can I extend that model? How can I extend that practice? And I do come from a teaching background, so it was really quite easy then to extend. So in the next slide is this is a teach the teacher model. So in Singapore, we were talking a lot about turtles, and wanted to get involved. So I went to Singapore and taught teachers from all different backgrounds, as you can see, how to make a little turtle, and then they took it into their classrooms. We ended up with over 800 turtles on this big wave outside. It ran alongside our exhibition in Singapore, but it was outside, and each individual one of those turtles is named with the child, a little plastic sleeve, and their school. And after the exhibition, the museum returned every turtle to every school, and every child got their turtle back. And the power of that model also was quite amazing, and seeing what children came up with as well, and then working with people to be able to install it in a way that had great meaning. I think that was really important for that. And so then the next slide, I think, brings us back to the Sydney Biennale. So Racy, when she spoke, and I think she touched on it that much, but the right-hand slide there is it's a 17-metre piece, and it was one of the first pieces that we did, putting together pieces at home separately, and then Marion and I worked to make it into 17 metres long of hanging installation. And we realised in this that the shadows were also really important, that, you know, working together, it's not just about the people working together, but it's that presentation of how it goes and to make it work for everybody. And then on the left-hand side is one of the earliest, not earliest collaborations, but it was also about making pieces individually and then putting them together. So this is a blanket, and, you know, it comes out of that women's tradition of caring and nurturing. So it was a blanket that was made. There was 5 of us, myself, Marion, Racy, Florence and Ella. We each made a piece, and then we made pieces together in one panel, which is the bottom left-hand corner. And so those pieces then, you know, had a real life, and they started to go places that we hadn't thought about. And this was, so that one was commissioned for the International Women's Day as well. So that whole thing about blankets was really important. I think we switch back to Marion now, and she's going to talk about the supersized bling.
Yes, so from me meeting Lynette through Flying Arts and travelling to Darnley and places like that, we did become quite good friends. Even though she lives in Cairns and I live in Townsville, we still collaborate a lot together. So one of our exhibitions, Supersized Bling, which is on the right, was at Kick Arts in Cairns, which Lynette organised. And on the left, some of them are also hanging with the blanket for the International Women's Exhibition at the Tanks in Cairns. And this Supersized Bling, in a way, was Lynette's idea. So she comes up with this idea that we're going to do this, and I go, that's a great idea, let's run with it. So I'll start what I think looks good, and she'll start with what she thinks looks good, and then we'll swap them, and then I'll work on hers and she'll work on mine. But it's really interesting because always one piece will go, well, that's mine. And it's usually the one that you've finished. That's how I feel about that project. So I can look at, even though the necklaces on the right-hand side all look fairly similar, I think, no, these got more of me in it, those have got more of Lynette's in it, and that's the whole beauty of collaboration. Next slide. And so this is our next collaboration, which Lynette's going to talk about.
So this is Ancient Mariner, so Strand Ephemera 2017, and the idea was to, you know, the Strand, you often watch sails on the Strand, and to create the sails on the horizon without the boats, but to have the, you know, because over this time now, I make fish and sea theme. Marion likes the birds and the coral, and so bringing those elements together, but on different sails, and it related to the poem, The Ancient Mariner, as well. So it was about all of those things, but it made us really think about a flat surface and making things separately, but coming together. And then this piece was shown, obviously, at Strand Ephemera, in Brunswick Heads, and then Port Douglas for Call of the Running Tide, and we just cut it up. So it's got a new life as well. And I think that's really nice about collaboration, especially ours, is that if it has a life, it has an excitement, you get over it and then use it. And, you know, that's part of the GhostNet ethos too, that recycling. And I think if you can recycle your artwork, it also works for us. So then in that next slide, which brings us to Final Curtain, which is the last exhibition that was had in Umbrella, and it's just come down before the members show. And there's 2 slides here. So this shows, I guess, Marion and I working in my studio in Cairns with different elements of that Final Curtain that we've brought together. And at this is a stage where we cut things up and we decide, you know, we have a plan, it changes, we make it work, it looks a little bit different or whatever to what you want, and we talk about it and cut it up and work it. And obviously there's a massive amount of stitching that goes into this, and you can see that there on the right. But when you do get it right, I think, you just feel feel really good about it. But I mean, these things will go on to have another life as well now. So it's not the final curtain, even though that was the title of the exhibition. But everything has another life. So Marion, do you want to talk about that too?
Yep. Do you want to move on to the next slide? Because I think that's got some final curtain stuff in it. So this is Lynette and I working hard together on her back veranda. So it's a panel. This is actually a panel cut off your sail.
Yeah.
And just need a bit more stitching to be added to the new project that we're working on at the moment. And the trolley was a final curtain, and it had a life that Lynette did the welding and the shape, and I did the leaves and my bird, but there's Lynette's fish and crabs. And so even though it's collaboration, the whole piece together, everybody worked on quite individual, both of us worked on quite individual pieces. And I think, just summing up, what I really enjoy about collaboration is the piece, you think it's finished, and then I go take it to Lynette and she'll go, what about this? And I go, oh yeah, I never thought about that. So yeah, that does make it better, and vice versa with Lynette. So you get that critical review that you used to get at art school, but as a practicing artist, you very rarely get from your peers, because you hang your work up and it's up and they go, oh, that's good. But you don't get people saying, what if you had to try this? And what if you had to try that? And I think that's where Lynette's and my collaboration works really well. But we do have the same aesthetic appeal and sense. And we both come from a craft background, me in fibres and Lynette in design and ceramics. So I love collaboration. So that's us.
Thanks, Marion. Sorry, did you want to say something, Lynette?
No, Marion's right. And you know, I think that critical review stuff at every stage of your work in collaboration is really good. It's not just an end critique, it's at every level. You know, we'll have a design, it gets critiqued. We start stitching, it gets critiqued, and that's really important. But also the trust in that critical appraisal is really important, that trust and building relationships. And yeah, we have a great friendship, but you know, at the end of the day, we trust each other to say, you know what, that's crap, get it out.
And we don't always agree with each other. So Lynette might say something and I go, nah, I think this is fine. But then maybe later on I'll agree with her. Just one of those things. So that's us.
Such great innovation comes from how dynamic your relationship is, and that critical feedback back and forth, and working with Erub Arts as well. Thank you so much for sharing. We'll come back to you guys during the Q&A. I'm going to hand over to Danish Quapoor, who's going to introduce us to his collaborative practice and particularly his project 6 Degrees.
Hello everyone, thanks for having me. So yeah, most of you probably know me as Daniel from Umbrella, but my artist pseudonym is Danish Quapoor, which is a sort of nickname that develops throughout art school, which is kind of the starting point for a lot of my adult collaboration, working with artists like Ree Johnson and Joeli Eastell, who's part of 6 Degrees. So I guess part of that in the art school environment was working in shared studio spaces. So just working in the same space a lot of the time helped us to understand each other and become friends, and kind of understand the vibe of how people work as artists and how they can work together. Part of my experience with that was working on zines, so lowbrow kind of photocopied artworks that we distributed, including one with Ree Johnson. Following on from uni, I was exhibiting in solo and group and collaborative exhibitions, and I think all of those kind of exhibiting experiences contributed to my sense of collaboration as well, because you're showing in the same exhibition and you're seeing how other artists work and how their work might complement yours. And continuing on with more residencies, so continuing that kind of shared studio space that I kind of had throughout uni, including one at the Grid Hybrid Arts Collective, which is back on the previous slide, where I did a mural that was with Alison Mooney in a dance studio. So that collaboration was kind of responding together, but also responding towards the space, so the sense of movement that the dance studio was going to have, and that kind of visual approach to things, I think. So following time in Toowoomba, I spent a few years in Melbourne, doing my master's down there in arts and cultural management, but also working on my own art practice and collaborations. I think moving to Melbourne into a new art circle probably we felt a bit isolated. So I was looking to meet new friends and make new collaborations. So I began contacting people through digital platforms, through things like Tumblr and Instagram, and just approaching artists and seeing if they wanted to collaborate. So for the first time, I was kind of trialing collaboration through the post, mailing things back and forth to one another. And it was an interesting process, and it really got me excited about working in that kind of way. The two images at the top left of the screen at the moment are two collaborations that I worked on, one with Agogwe in Sydney, and the one on the right was with an artist in Florida in the United States, Matthew McPherson. And I just liked their artist styles and thought they'd complement my own. And yeah, it was really interesting sending works back and forth and seeing how they ended up. So following on from there, you can go to the next slide now. I went back to Toowoomba in 2017, and I had a lot of these collaborations that I'd been working on in the post for no particular exhibition, and I wanted to exhibit them and to meet new people and meet new artists. So I curated an exhibition called Collaboration, collaboration spelt as if it was crossed with aberration, as a play on words. And that was at the Toowoomba Regional Art Gallery in the top image there. So as part of that process, I was contacting new artists and artists that I knew already and curating pairings of them. And I also worked on all of the artworks in the exhibition. So some of those were, I had started them, or I worked on the middle of them, or I worked on the end of them, because in some cases there was multiple artists working on the same artwork. And that was all through the post as well, so mailing back and forth. Part of that as well was the invitation, which is the image at the bottom left. So I did a drawing that I half finished, and that was the front image of the invitation, which I sent out to everybody. So then people who weren't necessarily artists could finish it off and upload images of what they'd done, which you can see in the next two examples there. And I think that's a really exciting thing about collaboration for me, is that it can inspire creativity in people that aren't necessarily artists to begin with, or that wouldn't consider themselves artists. Yeah, and I just like seeing the way that different people respond to different works and how it can end up, the same artwork can end up in so many different ways. So on to the next slide. The COVID lockdown this year kind of prompted me to do a different collaborative project and extend on those previous works, which is kind of where the SICs Degrees project and exhibition was formed. I applied for a few grants and eventually was successful with a Regional Art Development Fund, or RADF grant. So I'm thankful to the Townsville City Council and Queensland Government for that grant, because it meant that I could pay 16 artists to do this project. So the kind of idea behind this project was riffing on the spread of COVID, so that kind of graph of the exponential spread that was going around at the start of COVID particularly. And I wanted to utilise that to make a creative spread for collaboration. So I nominated two artists, one in Townsville and one in Toowoomba, Bree Johnson and Lauren Carter, and they continued to nominate artists for this project. They all submitted CVs and artist images. From that, I selected and approved all of them. And then there was the 16 artists. So they, once they were all approved, I then curated them into the circle that goes around the screen there in a chain, so that one artist would finish an artwork and the second artist would, one artist would start an artwork and the second artist would finish an artwork, and they would also start one for the next artist. Went around in a circle like that. It was great in that instance as well, because it was Townsville artists and artists from elsewhere in Australia. So it was kind of a networking and creative opportunity, so that people could meet new people and make new connections the same way that I had done in the mail previously. Following on from there with the next one, you can see the exhibition at Murky Waters Studio. This was the culmination of the project. So I displayed the works around the room in order so that the two artists' works were side by side, so you can see the one they started and finished. Another part of the project was that the half-finished works were photographed during the process, and I uploaded them onto my website so that non-artists and other artists could download them and collaborate as well. So it's that same kind of thing from collaboration, the previous exhibition with the invitation, so that people could finish off the work in their own style and see how different works ended up. And then from there, I chose 8 artworks from the online submissions. There ended up being 47 submissions, which was amazing, and included those 8 in the exhibition. A part as well was an app called the Survive. I managed to work out the back end of it to upload images of the half-finished works and the finished works so that they were overlaid, so people could download the app and scan the artworks in person, and they could see by overlaying their phone or their smartphone the first half of the work before the second artist added to it. And I think that was really exciting for viewers, being able to see that creative process and how the works ended up. And then lastly, on the last slide, I just wanted to show the works that I collaborated on. So the first was a work that I started for Petrie, who's based in Melbourne. And I did the crystal on the left there. And that was a bit of a process. I had drawn the crystal and the ink reacted badly. So I had to work back into it and scrape parts back, but it ended up as something I'm really happy with. And I posted that to Petrie, and she finished it off with her imagery on the second photo there. The second work was started by Ollie King in Melbourne as well. And I'd never met either of these people in real life. So they were artists that I just discovered through this project. They were nominated by Joeli Eastell. And Ollie's work was a paper and fabric work, so textiles, and it was a lot of stitching. And it took me a long time to work out how to respond to it. And I just kind of had to look at it and keep looking at it every day, basically, until I could work out what to do with it, because it was so different to something that I was used to responding to. But eventually I remembered that I'd done stitching works onto paper about 10 years previously, and I kind of incorporated some of that iconography and imagery into the finished work. The other thing that I wanted to mention was that a lot of the artists rotated their works. So you'll see on the screen there that my work, Petrie rotated it to finish hers off, and I rotated Ollie's. So I think that's part of the process as well, seeing how someone responds to a work, not necessarily what you think they're going to do. Yeah, but Karri and Joeli will talk about their experiences with the 6 Degrees exhibition as well. So I'll pass over to Karri now.
Hi everyone, my name is Karri McPherson. I'm an abstract painter and mural artist based in the Hunter Valley down in New South Wales. So I graduated from an honours degree in a Bachelor of Creative Art last year at the University of Southern Queensland. And then I decided to move interstate in March because I have fantastic timing. So I'm basically just going to discuss some collaborative projects that I've been involved in the last few years. So this first project here was my first duo mural collaboration. So this was actually funded by the Regional Arts Development Fund as well. So they're a really fantastic initiative. So I collaborated with artist Peter Osborne. So his work sort of is quite organic, and it's within the background, and mine's the hard-edged geometry in the foreground. So we worked concurrently on this project. I started at the top and he started at the bottom, and we sort of just intuitively responded to each other's works as we halfway and then continued on. So we completed this mural in 2 days. Yeah, just on the next slide, we jump back to 2017. So these are the first canvas collaborations that I'd done, and these were actually with my former lecturers at USQ. So the one on the left is with my former printmaking lecturer, Stephen Spurrier. I call him Prof. So Prof actually started the background, which was just that sort of orange shape with some screen printed imagery on the foreground. He gave it to me then, and I decided to create these geometric sort of prisms to the left side of the canvas. Gave it back to Prof. He screen printed the little astronaut in the center and did the squiggly lines. Then he gave it back to me, and I drew the little alien, and I gave it back to Prof, and he's still currently got that one. The one on the right is actually a collaboration I did with my painting lecturer, Carl Jenkins. So he painted the top half, then he concealed it and gave it to me. So I had no idea what I was actually responding to, which I found that it was a challenge because I had no idea what sort of color palette or anything, but thankfully he was a geometric artist as well. So I knew that it would somehow, there'd be some sort of dynamic there. Yeah, we'll head on to the next slide. So a bit of background context. So Ree Johnson, who Danish mentioned before, she herself, me and her were selected to be involved in a residency at First Coat Studios in Toowoomba back in 2017. And during this month-long residency, we were taught how to translate canvas paintings into wall paintings. Following this, Flying Arts Alliance invited us to facilitate a workshop in Toowoomba where we taught high school students how to translate their works into murals. So over 3 days, we worked with the students to create this mural that you see here. So I think there was about 15 of us in total, and it was raining on the last day, which was awful, but we managed to get the mural together in time. On to the next slide. We can see my collaboration here. This one's with Lynn Scott Cumming, who is a Townsville artist. So I started this collaboration. I researched a bit of her work because I wasn't familiar with Lynn's work. She does a lot of printmaking, which I love. I absolutely love printmaking, and she likes to look into like a sense of place within her works. I sort of struggled with this as my work is very geometric and it's not representational. So creating a sense of place was difficult, but for some reason a rainbow came to my mind. And so I just worked intuitively and created this geometric form, which she then created lino prints and she collaged on top of it, which I really like the dynamic between our works in this piece. Next slide is my collaboration with Erin Ricardo, who is also based in Townsville. So she did a print, a lino print, which you can see in the left image. I sort of struggled with this one. It took me a while. It was a bit like Danish. I sort of just sat there and like stared at it, and I went away and I came back and I didn't really know how to respond, but then this sort of pattern came to mind, and I created that to try and frame the pot that's in the artwork. And on the right side is a current collaborative project that I'm working on. So this is with a company who are based in Newcastle. They're called Mural in a Box, and essentially they create mural kits that they can send off to schools so that teachers and students can learn how to translate work onto a mural. And this one, they specifically sought me out because they wanted a mural that could help with students' numeracy in school. Geometric artworks are deceptively a lot of math is involved, getting proportions correct and everything even, and if one line is slightly wonky, the whole work just died. So they wanted to get me in to try and help the students incorporate that into their math skills. Yeah, they're the main projects I've been involved with. So yeah, I might hand over to Joeli.
Hey everyone, I'm Joeli Eastell. I'm a artist living in Melbourne, originally from Southern Queensland. I've had the pleasure of being involved in multiple collaboration projects. Like this one that you can see on the screen here. This was probably the first time I got to really exercise collaboration, and this is with Danish Quapoor back in 2011. Yeah, could I have the next slide, please? On the left here is the pages that I did for the travel journal curated by Kelly Marie McEwen. It was a journal that was sent around Australia to 5 other artists, I think, and we would all make our own pages and also collaborate with each other. And on the right here is an example of my contribution to Danish's collaboration project Collaboration. The one on the left is what Danish sent to me, and then on the right you can see how I responded. And we'd been kind of doing this for a little while, so it was it's just fun for me, like to respond to friends' work and hope to make him surprised by what comes back. On the next slide, you'll see a sneak peek of a work that I'm working on with, I work on a project that I'm working on with Danish Quapoor and also Reed Johnson from Toowoomba. We've been mailing each other work, unfinished works for each other to respond to. I'd like to, so it's the first time that I've worked with 2 other artists kind of continuously, and makes it so that somebody starts an artwork, somebody is in the middle, and then somebody finishes it. And sometimes it goes for another round, but start the artwork, I feel like what I do is starting basically an artwork that is mine, and then I get kind of to a place where naturally I'll stop and start working on another piece, and that will be when I send it off to somebody else. And when I get one that has been started, it's more fun because you're in the middle, you don't have any pressure to start an artwork or to finish an artwork. But so you can kind of like, you can have fun. My aim is to confuse them, to make them, to challenge them. I try to sometimes make a big mess, and I'm working with 2 very structured and minimal people. So I try to take it like as far as I can on the second round. And on the last one, usually I just try to finish the work while complementing what the other 2 artists have done, and sometimes do a little bit of a mix up. May I have the next slide, please? Okay, now I'd like to talk about our SICs Degrees projects. The first one I did was with Michael Poe, a Townsville artist who does mainly black ink line work. I was kind of nervous to be the person starting for an artist who is like that, because I'm such a messy person artistically. So I had to try to figure out how to make a work that he could work on top of and it actually look like something. So my initial idea that I discussed with him was to make a set of shelves to indicate kind of what I've been experiencing in Melbourne during the pandemic. I've just been kind of sitting on my couch, watching TV, reading, doing a billion other things, kind of with this set of shelves in front of me. And I thought I could have a set of shelves that are populated with different things pertaining to the pandemic, to lockdown, to the coronavirus, and kind of relay our experience from that. But I kind of needed it to be a bit more solid. So I came up with the idea of like a storytelling pot. You can kind of see on the left there, the working. In the middle are these big, I mean, they're not big, they're A5 size drawings. I just would do I've been doing them all year through the lockdown, but my frustration with just being locked in my house has been increasing, and I didn't really have inspiration coming in to react to anything artistically. So I was just getting A5 pieces of paper and scribbling, and then trying to make those scribbles into something that I liked actually looking at. And so I thought I wanted to incorporate that, which is what you can see on the right. I've made a big like arch piece of paper, just covered it in that big mess that I ended up kind of calling a COVID mess. And on the next slide, you'll see the pot. Sorry, may I have the next slide, please? Yeah, the pot that I came up with, it's like an ancient Greek pot. So I really liked how it referenced storytelling from a historical point of view. On there, you can see that I ended up putting the word finger licking on the pot. That was just a joke that I did to myself as a like placeholder I would put something in there later on, but I kind of realized as I was making it that kind of did really relate to my story in COVID. Because I'm a vegetarian, I decided to start eating chicken, especially KFC chicken. So I had this package on my desk in front of me and incorporated that in there. And I really liked it. I thought it was funny. I like funny things, so that's that. And then the pot, just put it onto so at the end, this is what Michael put onto the pot. And I really enjoy this work. I think what he did here, he put on a Skimo, being a bumbling idiot kind of, and a toilet paper in the background there, which I really enjoyed. And the thing with this, I would never have done anything like that. I would never have thought to be so specific, so kind of literal. Like, I really love that aspect, and that made the work a bit more dynamic, I think. Next up is, pardon me. This is the working for the collaboration I did with Lynn Scott Cumming, also from Townsville. So on the left here, you can see my working again. This is kind of stuff I started before the project. And I'd just been kind of drawing, again, just drawing circles, and I thought they ended up looking like flowers kind of. So that kind of turned into these like flower shapes that I came up with. And then Lynn sent me this picture with, you can see those two heads. That's all that was on the piece of paper to respond to. And the same with Karri and Danish. I was just sitting for 2 weeks in a row, staring, losing my mind, thinking I wasn't going to be able to finish the collaboration, trying to figure out how to make myself part of the work that I'd been sent by Lynn. And then I realized I already had a background of the previous work. Half of that was unused. So I decided to use that, make a bit of cohesion between the two pieces, and then add the flowers that I'd come up with. And you can see kind of on the right here, I'm just trying to work out how to lay them out in a nice way that was pleasing to the eye. And on the next slide, you can see the finished project. I'm really happy with this. I really love, I was so confounded by what to do from Lynn's work. I was kind of expecting more of a 3D thing, but she'd given me this, like a Buddha and a Bodhisattva with mask on, and it's collage with parliamentary record book paper. And so I decided to make it a collage as well, like I was just saying. The thing that I really loved about this SICs Degrees project is it's collaboration. I do collaboration. I have done collaboration in the past, but this is with two people who I was totally distant from. They're in Townsville, I'm in Melbourne. And I got to meet, I got to kind of figure out who they were through their art and then respond to that in my way. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you. You were just saying before in that pre-chat, because you're in Melbourne, you've been in lockdown, and you were saying how fabulous it was to actually be in the physical presence of somebody else's art because you couldn't go to the gallery. And I thought that was kind of beautiful.
It really is different. I always have been looking online on social media. I love taking in art from other people, but then getting these in the mail, it was something else. I could see what they're done. I could kind of interact with it, although like visually, but also just looking at it, that kind of interaction. And it kind of has a presence of its own, which you kind of imbibe by being near. I really enjoyed.
I guess that's the thing. It's the being in the presence of work and responding and I don't know, being considerate of who you're working with. I'm just picking up on what a lot of you guys have been saying, but also the challenging each other thing. It seems to be really key and a great part of the satisfaction of it. We've only got a few minutes for questions. If any of our audience want to pop some questions in the box there, we can look at those. I thought maybe, as we've only got a few minutes left, I might ask each of the artists to perhaps in a sentence or with a few words kind of say what they think is the most important thing to think about when you're approaching collaboration, and with in mind, like for people who have never done it before and are interested to do it, you know, what advice or what key things you think they should be considering. Maybe Karri, can I put you on the hot seat?
Yeah, sure. I think stepping outside of your comfort zone is an important thing, being prepared to be fluid with your practice. So, I mean, I stayed with the geometry, but I think it did translate well into the works that I collaborated on. But yeah, I think it's just preparing to be challenged.
Hey, Marion, what do you think? What advice, what are the key things?
So to me, there's two quite different collaborations. You're the first person to instigate it, or you're following somebody else who instigates it. And I find both those processes interesting and quite different.
Have you got any thoughts or advice to share for people who want to get into collaboration?
Me?
Yeah.
Do it.
I'll do it.
Yeah, because it's fun. Just, yeah.
Was that me? Sorry, Kate.
I like that Marion responded, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. I'd say have fun with it, because even if the work doesn't end up well to begin with, you can always do more. Having fun with it seems to produce great results in the end, I think.
I really liked how Racy was saying, like how at Erub and within the community, collaboration is about like sharing knowledge with elders as well and making something bigger than yourselves. I thought that was really amazing. I wonder, Lynette, did you have any quick thoughts on or advice for people about collaborating?
Yeah, I just think that, you know, lots of people have been talking about the challenge and challenging yourself and things not working. But I think with that, ultimately, the respect for people and for people's work is really important. And if you can keep open communication, then yes, it can be fun, and it is fun, and you get the most out of it. So just being open and respectful, I guess, of every in the process. The process is fabulous.
Thank you. Joeli, did you have anything else to add after your presentation? We've just heard from you.
Yeah, well, I'd like to reiterate, give it a go. It's something you can do with your friends in real life straight away. Just share a piece of paper. You can, you know, finish each other's drawings. You can make fun of each other. You can encourage each other. It's a beautiful thing, collaboration.
Right, well, I guess we'll wrap up now. I really want to thank all the artists for being part of this session and sharing with us your practice, your thoughts on how to work with other people. I've really enjoyed getting to know it through these kind of projects. Thank you to Danish Quapoor, who's actually been putting this session together for us. Thank you to our audiences for joining us through this program this year. And gosh, are we all ready for 2020 to be over and have a fresh start in 2021? Everyone, have a great holiday, relax, stay safe, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Thanks.